News about climate is not always that fun to consume, and the current state of things is not that great. The future really doesn't look that much better. So researchers have started to study the kinds of feelings that climate change can conjure up. They even have a name for it: climate anxiety. Environmental reporter Kale Williams is here now to talk about climate change and mental health, where they converge. And by the way, there's something that you can do to help researchers, right, Kale?
That's right. I mean, climate change can be a depressing thing to think about. It's a problem we've known about for decades, and it often feels like the progress we're making is, stop and go at best. So researchers from the University of Bath, that's in the UK, they surveyed some 10,000 young people from 10 different countries and found that 60% of them were very worried about the climate crisis. And these young people used words like anxious, angry, powerless to describe how they felt.
Okay, but does the same hold true in Oregon?
It does. Earlier this year, the Oregon Health Authority released a report that had similar findings. Our young people said they felt desperation, frustration, hopelessness when confronted with the state of the climate. Local youth climate activist Cassie Wilson, interviewed here at a climate protest in Portland earlier this year, said the 2020 wildfires were a galvanizing moment for her.
The entirety of the county was under some level of evacuation order, and it was terrifying. And ever since then, we've only seen more and more and more impacts from climate change already happening on a local level.
And this isn't something that I'm immune to either. As an environmental reporter, I've probably taken more climate news than most people. It's easy to find myself in a pretty dark place sometimes. And I say that as a white guy who makes a decent living, so I'm relatively insulated from the everyday impacts of climate change.
So it sounds like climate anxiety doesn't fall evenly across the board, right? There are some folks that are suffering more than others?
Yeah, I mean, research is really still in the early stages, but preliminary studies have found that climate anxiety is much more acute for younger people, low-income folks, and people of color. And it makes sense when you think about it. All of those groups are more likely to be on the front lines as climate change causes more intense wildfires, droughts, and heat waves. Just for an example here, most of the people that died when we had the heat dome were low income, and a lot of them didn't have working air conditioners.
But there is good news. We don't have to just wallow in this. People can take action, right? And you want to hear from our viewers.
That's right. Those of you who watch the story regularly, you know that we love hearing your feedback, and this is no different. We've got a post up right now at kgw.com with a short survey on how you're feeling about climate change. We want to know whether climate anxiety is impacting you on a daily basis, and if so, how. We want to know if it's affecting the choices you're making about the future, whether that's what kind of car to buy or whether to start a family. We also want to know, among all the bad news, what gives you hope? And the whole survey only takes a couple minutes to complete, and your answers will help inform the future of our reporting. There's even a spot to leave your contact info so I can follow up and ask you more questions. And if you're up for it, I might even include you in a story down the line.
Wow, that sounds great. And I said it was good news because it's one thing to just sit there and kind of wallow in all this, but if we can take a little bit of action, that helps.
It really helps to have a sense of agency in this type of thing. One of the things that gets me down is when I feel like there's nothing that I can do. Even if you're answering a survey, you're helping us to inform our reporting, and that's going to make for better future stories down the road.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kale. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.